You're not here by accident. You're here because something inside you, a voice, a whisper, maybe even a roar, is saying, I'm meant for more. Every day, millions of people settle. They trade their dreams for comfort, their passion for predictability, their potential for permission. But let me tell you something, you were not born to settle. You were born to shape, to build, to create the life you imagine. The truth is this week can change our lives. Not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Because the moment you decide, the moment you say enough, your world begins to shift. You can do anything you commit to. You can have everything you believe you deserve. You can be whoever you are courageous enough to become. Change doesn't start with luck. It starts with a decision. The decision to rise, to take back your power, to rewrite your story. Because the only limits that exist are the ones you keep alive in your mind. So if you're ready to break that cycle, if you're ready to stop wishing and start doing, then today is your day. Because from this moment on, your future belongs to you. Decision is the doorway to destiny. Everything in your life, your success, your happiness, your identity begins and ends with the decisions you make. Not the ones you think about, but the ones you commit to. A real decision isn't made with your lips, it's made with your soul. It's that instant when you draw a line in the sand and say, this is who I am now, this is where my life turns. And from that moment, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you. For men, decision often feels like a test of power, the inner urge to take charge, to lead, to conquer the chaos. But the truth is, power without direction is just noise. The real strength of a man lies not in reacting to circumstances, but in deciding what those circumstances will mean. A man who decides to stand for something greater than his fears becomes unstoppable. He no longer chases validation or waits for permission. He becomes the creator of his path, not a product of his past. That's the moment when the fire reignites, when his purpose outweighs his pain and his clarity kills hesitation. For women, decision carries a different rhythm, a deep emotional intelligence that turns intention into transformation. Too often, women are conditioned to question their worth, to overthink, to wait until everything feels right. But the truth is, the perfect moment never comes. The power is already within. The moment a woman decides to trust her instincts, to choose her voice over her doubt, she awakens an unstoppable force. Her decisions become declarations of worth, a refusal to shrink for anyone or anything. That's not rebellion. The psychology behind decision is simple but profound. The human brain craves certainty, safety, and patterns, even if those patterns keep us stuck. When you make a real decision, you break the pattern, you challenge your mind to serve your vision instead of your fear. It's uncomfortable, yes, it's supposed to be. Growth demands discomfort because comfort feeds mediocrity. The moment you decide to step into uncertainty with conviction, your mind begins to reorganize itself around your new identity. Decisions create momentum. Most people wait for motivation to act, but motivation is born after you decide. When you decide fully, not halfway, not conditionally, the universe starts to respond. Opportunities that were invisible become visible. People appear. Resources align. You start to feel alive again because you've given your mind something real to pursue. Men begin to feel their strength again. Women begin to feel their certainty again. Both rediscover the truth that life bends for those who choose with clarity and conviction. Every transformation you've ever admired began with someone making a decision no one else understood. They didn't wait for approval. They decided to rise. The difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one isn't talent, luck, or background. It's that split second of courage when you decide you will no longer lie beneath your potential and mean it with every fiber of your being. Energy is the currency of change. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every reinvention begins not with a new plan, but with a new level of energy. The truth is, you can't think your way into a new life with the same tired emotional state that created the old one. Change demands vitality. It demands presence. It demands that you bring your full self, mind, body, and emotion into alignment with the vision you claim to want. When your energy rises, your world expands. When it drops, so does your potential. For men, energy is often mistaken for aggression, drive, or dominance. But that's not power. That's noise without direction. Real masculine energy is focused, grounded, and purposeful. It's the force that turns frustration into full fear and emotion, and confusion into clarity. When a man learns to master his energy, instead of letting it leak through anger, distraction, or doubt, he stops reacting and starts leading. His body becomes his reset, and his purpose becomes his power source. You can't lead your family, your business, or your dreams if your energy is scattered. When a man channels his energy into presence, not pressure, he becomes unstoppable. For women, energy is the heartbeat of intuition, a rhythm of emotion, empathy, and strength that moves mountains quietly. Yet, too often women are drained by the weight of expectation, constantly pouring into others until there's nothing left for themselves. When a woman decides to reclaim her energy, to stop apologizing for her boundaries, she becomes radiant. Her energy doesn't just lift her, it inspires everyone around her. Her clarity becomes contagious, her confidence magnetic. She realizes that nurturing her own fire isn't selfish, it's sacred. Because when she's full, she doesn't burn out, she ignites others. The psychology of energy is simple but often ignored. Your emotions are energy in motion. What you feel is what you fuel. When you live in stress, fear, or frustration, you drain the battery of your potential. But when you shift into gratitude, focus, and determination, your body floods with power. It's not magic, it's chemistry. Your mind and body are wired to respond to your emotional state, and every thought either charges or drains your internal power source. The secret is to train your nervous system to live in peak energy, not survival. Energy is contagious. The people you surround yourself with either amplify or diminish your state. That's why one powerful decision, one bold action, one committed belief can change not only your results, but the entire energy field around you. When men lead with grounded strength and women move with aligned certainty, the entire environment changes. The air feels different. The conversations deepen. The actions accelerate. Every moment of your life is an exchange of energy between what you desire and what you tolerate. When your energy rises above your circumstances have no choice but to follow. Change is not about doing more, it's about being more alive in everything you do. Because the one who controls their energy controls their reality. Beliefs build your reality. Every action you take, every emotion you feel, and every result you experience begins in the invisible architecture of your mind. Your beliefs, they are the silent contracts you've made with yourself about what's possible and what's not. If you believe you're limited, your life will prove you right. If you believe you're capable, your life will expand to match that belief. The world doesn't shape your identity, your beliefs do. And the moment you challenge those old unconscious patterns that have ruled your life, you take back control of your destiny. For men, beliefs often form around performance and worth. From a young age, they're taught that achievement equals value, that emotions are weakness, that struggle means failure. Over time, that belief becomes a cage. It pushes men to chase results, approval, or power, all while starving their inner peace. But the truth is, strength isn't about never falling. It's about believing that every fall builds your next rise. When a man changes his belief from, I have to prove myself, to, I am already enough, he stops chasing validation and starts living with vision. His confidence no longer depends on outcomes, but on alignment with his purpose. That's when his actions become unstoppable because they're fueled by conviction, not insecurity. For women, beliefs often weave through identity and belonging. Society tells them to be everything, strong but gentle, ambitious but likable, independent but agreeable. And those conflicting beliefs tear at their power. When a woman believes she must shrink to be accepted, she hides her light. But when she chooses to believe that her voice matters, that her intuition is wisdom, everything changes. She no longer asks for permission to rise, she embodies it. Her belief becomes a declaration that she can lead, love, and create without losing herself. And that shift doesn't just transform her life, it transforms everyone who witnesses her courage. The psychology of belief is built on repetition and emotion. Whatever you tell yourself consistently, especially when it's charged with feeling, becomes your truth. The human brain is designed to prove your beliefs right, not because they're true, because it seeks certainty. That's why limiting beliefs feel so real. They've been rehearsed for years. To change your life, you must interrupt that pattern. You must teach your mind a new story, one that serves your vision, not your fear. When your beliefs align with your goals, your behavior follows automatically. You no longer have to force action. It becomes your natural state. Beliefs are the lens through which you see the world. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees a dead end, the other sees a doorway. The difference isn't luck, it's belief. The person who believes they can adapt, grow, and overcome will always find a way. The one who believes they're trapped will stay exactly where they are. That's why every lasting change begins not with a new circumstance, but with a new conviction. Because once you believe something is possible with absolute certainty, your mind, your body, and your world start to align to make it real. Action breaks the chains of fear. Nothing keeps people trapped longer than waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, or the perfect plan. Fear feeds on hesitation. The longer you think about doing something, the heavier it becomes. Fear grows in the absence of movement, but the moment you take even the smallest step forward, its power begins to fade. Action is the antidote to fear because it shifts your focus from what could go wrong to what you can make right. The truth is, clarity doesn't come before action, it comes from action. For men, fear often disguises itself as control. Many men fear failure, not because they doubt their ability, but because they believe their worth is measured by results. That fear leads to paralysis, to overthinking, overplanning, and underliving. But when a man takes decisive action, even imperfectly, he reconnects with his natural state of power. He moves from the mind into the body, from analysis into execution. Fear loses its grip because the brain can't hold on to panic when the body is in motion. When a man acts despite uncertainty, he rewires his psychology from avoidance to advancement. Each step forward becomes proof that he can lead, that he can adapt, that he can win. For women, fear often hides behind doubt and expectation. Many women grow up conditioned to seek permission to be careful, to make sure everyone else is comfortable before they move. That conditioning creates hesitation, and hesitation breeds fear. But the moment a woman chooses to act, to speak up, to start, to move, she begins to rewrite that story. Action becomes an act of liberation. Every time she steps forward despite uncertainty, she expands her identity. She realizes she doesn't need to be fearless, she only needs to be in motion. The power was never in waiting for confidence. It was in creating it through consistent movement. The psychology of fear is built on imagination. Fear isn't real in the physical world, it lives in the mind as a projection of what could happen. The problem is, the human brain can't distinguish between imagined danger and real danger, so the same physiological response that would save you from a predator now stops you from pursuing your dreams. The way to reprogram that response is through movement. Action teaches the nervous system that you're not in danger, you're in control. It builds new evidence that you can handle discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. Every time you act despite fear, you weaken its pattern in the brain until confidence becomes your new default. Action also generates momentum. And momentum is life's greatest amplifier. The moment you start moving, your energy rises, your focus sharpens, and your belief strengthens. Suddenly, possibilities appear that didn't exist when you were standing still. You start to realize that courage isn't something you find, it's something you build, one action at a time. And the more you act, the less you fear. Men rediscover their fire through motion, women rediscover their freedom through momentum. Both begin to understand that movement is mastery. The difference between those who live fully and those who live cautiously isn't talent or intelligence. It's motion. People who win at life don't wait to stop being afraid. They move while they're afraid. They know that progress doesn't come from comfort. It comes from commitment. Action breaks mental loops, emotional paralysis, and every story that says, not yet. Because the moment you take action, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the story holding you back. Fear's chains can't survive movement. The instant you take the first step, no matter how small, the weight begins to lift, and your world starts to change. Standards define success. Every result in your life, your health, your relationships, your career, your confidence, is a reflection of what you've decided to tolerate. People don't get what they want, they get what they are willing to demand from themselves. Success doesn't start with goals, it starts with standards. Goals are dreams with deadlines, but standards are the rules that shape every decision you make. You can raise your goals and change nothing, but the moment you raise your standards, your entire life begins to shift. Because standards are not expectations of others, they're the commitments you make to yourself. For men, standards are often tied to identity. Many men grow up believing their worth is measured by achievement, by what they produce, how much they earn, or how strong they appear. But when success becomes a scoreboard instead of a mirror of personal values, men lose touch with their inner drive. Raising standards isn't about chasing more, it's about demanding more from within. It's about refusing to settle for average effort, half-hearted focus, or shallow purpose. When a man decides that good enough is no longer acceptable, his discipline strengthens, his confidence returns, and his results start to mirror his potential. The standard becomes his anchor, not to perfection, but to progress. For women, standards are deeply connected to self-worth and boundaries. Too many women are taught to put everyone else first, to sacrifice their energy, their dreams, and their peace for the sake of being accepted or loved. But when a woman redefines her standards, she reclaims her power. She begins to say no to what drains her and yes to what grows her. She stops apologizing for wanting more and starts embodying the truth that she deserves it. High standards are not arrogance, they're alignment. They tell the world how you value yourself. When a woman sets standards for how she's treated, how she lives, and how she loves, she stops settling for scraps and starts commanding the life she envisions. The psychology behind standards is simple. Your brain is always trying to stay consistent with who you believe you are. If you identify as someone who betrays, you'll live a life of effort without excellence. But if you decide that you are someone who executes, who commits, who finishes, your behavior will naturally rise to match that identity. Every time you raise your standards, you redefine who you are. You teach your mind and body a new baseline for what's acceptable. That's how transformation becomes permanent, not through motivation, but through identity-level standards that say, this is who I am now. Raising standards doesn't mean doing more. It means doing what matters most with intention and integrity. It means deciding that excuses are no longer part of your vocabulary, that average effort no longer satisfies you. When your standards rise, your energy changes. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop chasing validation. You begin to feel a quiet certainty that success isn't something you pursue. It's something you embody. People around you feel that shift. They may not understand it, but they respect it because raised standards command respect without ever asking for it. Every breakthrough in life begins with a moment of decision where you say, I will no longer lie below my potential. That's when your inner thermostat changes. When you set a new baseline for what's acceptable in your health, your habits, your relationships, and your mindset. Men reclaim their strength by setting standards that challenge them. Women reclaim their freedom by setting standards that honor them. And both discover the same truth: your standards are the ceiling and the floor of your destiny. The day you raise them, everything around you starts to rise. The future is built in this moment. Every choice, every thought, every action you take right now is shaping the world you'll wake up to tomorrow. Most people live as if the future is something that just happens, something they'll deal with someday. But someday is an illusion. The only real moment you have power over is this one. The future isn't waiting for you to arrive. It's being constructed right now through the patterns you repeat, the energy you bring, and the standards you set. Every moment is a seed, and what you choose to plant determines the harvest you'll live with. For men, the present moment often becomes a battlefield between ambition and anxiety. They're driven to build, to provide, to achieve, yet they often get trapped in the weight of what's next. They live in tomorrow so much that they lose control of today. The irony is that power doesn't exist in the next deal, the next win, or the next opportunity. It exists in how a man shows up right now, how he speaks to his family, how he focuses on his mission, how he carries himself when no one's watching. When a man learns to master the moment, he regains his edge. He stops reacting and starts responding with intention. That's when time begins to serve him instead of control him. Because he's no longer chasing the future, he's creating it in real time. For women, the present moment can often be buried under the weight of expectation. They juggle careers, relationships, responsibilities, and the constant demand to do it all. The mind races, thinking ahead, planning, preparing, but true strength comes from presence. When a woman grounds herself in the moment, she becomes unstoppable. She connects to her intuition, that quiet wisdom that always knows the next right move. She stops performing and starts aligning. The moment she chooses to be fully here, not apologizing for her pace, not measuring her worth by the noise of the world, she taps into her deepest power. Her presence becomes her influence, calm, focused, and magnetic. The psychology of the present moment is profound. The human mind loves to wander. It replays the past and rehearses the future, but it rarely inhabits now. Yet all change, all creation, all transformation happens only in the present. The brain can't take action yesterday or tomorrow. It can only act now. The challenge is that most people use the present to reinforce old patterns instead of building new ones. They wake up repeating yesterday's emotions, yesterday's fears, yesterday's excuses. But if you want a different future, you must interrupt that cycle. You must decide that this moment is your turning point, the place where you stop recycling the past and start designing what's next. Every great life is a series of moments mastered one after another. It's not built in giant leaps, it's built in consistent presence. Success isn't about speed, it's about direction. And direction is chosen right here, not in the fantasies of tomorrow, but in the discipline of now. The man who trains his mind to act on what matters instead of what's easy becomes unstoppable. The woman who decides to speak truth instead of silence her power becomes unforgettable. Both are sculpting their future with every word, every breath, every choice in the present. The power of the present also lies in emotion. Your emotional state in this moment determines the quality of your decisions. When you live in stress, fear, or anger, your vision narrows. You make choices from survival, not creation. But when you shift into gratitude, focus, and confidence, your decisions expand. You begin to see possibilities that were invisible when you were stuck in reaction. The future belongs to those who can command their state right now, because emotion drives motion, and motion builds momentum. There's a profound truth in how the present moment works. Nothing changes until you change how you use it. Every excuse you've ever told yourself lives in this moment. Every breakthrough you've ever imagined also lives here. It's not about waiting for the stars to align. It's about aligning yourself with action this instant. You can rewrite your identity, redirect your energy, and reshape your destiny, not by thinking about it, but by doing something different right now. Men begin to rise the moment they realize that action today is more powerful than intention tomorrow. Women begin to soar the moment they realize that presence today is more valuable than perfection later. Life bends for those who know how to use time intentionally. Every great achievement you'll ever create, every dream, every legacy, every victory starts in a moment just like this one. The question is never, what will I become? It's, what will I do with this moment that's in front of me right now? Because your future isn't waiting. It's being built heartbeat by heartbeat in this very second.